And we are being recorded. And Sean, there is the typical minutes or transcripts, and we'll proactively say, okay, sure, whatever we said has been recorded, and whatever actions we took or discussed have been recorded for posterity. And I can ask, it is on here, if there's any public that wishes to comment. Now it's time to do that. So I'll open it up while we wait for a few others. And if not, Chris is just coming on, so let's get Chris in, and Cindy's here. And Cindy, since you are here, let's there's Cindy. And I was pleased, it is coming up. I was pleased that the September monthly report kind of hit the website, or hit my inbox today. So that was not quite available for everyone, but now's a great time just to do a quick review, Cindy, of where we are and what's going on, and we'll keep moving.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. So we'll start off with phase 1 update. Elevator modernization project at Beverly J. Martin, has started some work, not as we had hoped in earnest. The elevator contractor is still waiting for delivery of remaining equipment to get started. They don't have any shipping date or delivery date for that equipment at this time. As we've talked in OACM in our project meetings, material delivery streams are impacting everything across all parts and elements of construction and other entities in our communities. So here we are again being impacted by that. Typically, they say they don't have issues getting their materials, but unfortunately, we are having some issues, and we heard from our team members at campus in an ops meeting yesterday, there are some of our other teams that are having issues with their elevator and cooler equipments as well, that typically don't have long lead. In the interim, while we're waiting for that equipment to arrive for the elevator work to start in earnest, the 3 trades that we have currently on phase 1 that needed to do some work in conjunction with that upgrade have begun some of their work. The electrician has run quite a bit of conduit to the extent that he can until equipment is in place. General contractor has patched the shaft and has started or has demoed out the opening and installed a frame for a new doorway into the boiler room that's required. So we're doing whatever we can ahead of the elevator equipment showing up to be as prepared as possible to have those miscellaneous items done ahead of time. And we've been working quite closely with Dr. Esch, keeping her updated on where we are with stuff, what we want to do, when we want to do it. And she's very supportive of that and excited to get whatever we can done in this endeavor. Bell Sherman Annex Elementary, we did get the existing lockdown button relocated to the new greeter desk. We have a couple of other push buttons that are part of the contract that have been wired, and the buttons need to be installed. The electrician was waiting for those to be turned over to them by day automation, which occurred last night. So we should be able to facilitate finalizing that even as early as this Friday. Transportation, all work there is completed. Stadium work is substantially complete, and we are working with the contractor to get back and address any punch list items and some final cleanup items. But the stadium has been turned over and it has been beneficial use by the district. Within the high school building, area C, or the pool, work is proceeding. We reported at the OACM meeting last week that the new material wall build out is complete. They are currently cutting joints and what we call parging or smoothing the walls so that they don't have any rough spots. And then they will be putting on a moisture mitigation layer. Once that cures, tile will begin on the walls of the pool. Area K, or the LGI, work is proceeding and is mostly on schedule. Studs have gone up, drywall's going in. We painted the ceiling on Saturday. Those are things that need to get completed so the scaffolding can come down. And then we'll be able to work on the risers and get that furniture in and get the LED wall up for that space. The other ancillary rooms around there are proceeding as well. Boynton, this summer, we did interior floor replacement that's been reviewed by Tetra Tech, and the contractor needs to address any punch list items. The other piece at Boynton is the varsity baseball field. That work is substantially complete for base contract. The sod is growing and coming in quite nicely. We've had 4 of 5 mowings conducted to date, and it's coming in beautifully. Both the infield sod that was placed by a direct contractor to the district, as well as our phase 1 contract work for the outfield. We do still have change order work for the practice bullpens and a valve to help eliminate any water backing up from the lake should we have high water situations like we've had this summer. And we did experience during construction. We had to sort of plug that pipe up so that it didn't flood the field. So we're going to address that by change order. We're working with the contractor to schedule that work. As you know, it's been a very wet time and working with dirt and grass doesn't really work well. We'll just make a mud pit. So we're trying to schedule that to be finished up with the bullpens before winter. The valve, however, is an 11-week lead time. So we may be putting that in over the winter or may need to wait until spring. We'll be working with the contractor to close them out as much as possible while we're waiting for that work to be completed. So we don't have any impact with aidability starting this summer. Cuga Heights, we've gotten most of the glazing in for the new secure vestibule and around the office. We do have one piece of fixed glazing that is still outstanding. It arrived broken when it was originally shipped and had to be reordered. This is typically a long lead item, and in our current situation with material streams, it's elongated even further, but it is on order and we're awaiting that to arrive. We'll schedule that around the district's operations there. We also need to install some correct glazing for the transaction window. They do have the glass, but they need the proper hardware to install and they're waiting for that to arrive. At Fall Creek, we have the same situation at the transaction window. The glass is on hand. There's some temporary in now, and they need the proper hardware to install that location as well. We do also have at Fall Creek some additional change orders requested by the owner for some additional access control functions at a couple of doors there. And we're working on getting that clarification and correct hardware here so that we can install that. Northeast Elementary, all work is completed and punch list was distributed to the contractors today. Had very minor items on that, so we should be able to clean that one up quite quickly. High school roof replacement phase. All roof areas that were scheduled for this summer, the roof has been replaced. Metal flashing and edge cap flashing is complete. We had an inspection of the roof areas that were placed this year last Wednesday, and there were some minor items the inspector wanted addressed, and the contractor has been working on those. We should be able to get the warranty for those spaces this fall, and then we'll be doing the other portions of the building that weren't addressed this year next summer, starting in mid to late June. Any questions on work that's been going on so far?
Cindy, just bouncing back to Beverly J. Martin. So once the equipment comes in, timeline, okay, we're ready for it, and it comes in, how many, I'm going to say weeks does it take?
Yep. The elevator contractor stated 3 to 4 weeks to be complete and inspected and certified. Hopefully, fingers crossed. That is the challenge. But he was hoping to be able to improve upon that once he got the material. And now that we'll have some work done ahead of him, we're hopeful that that can be done as expeditiously as possible.
Thanks. Any questions for Cindy? The report, updated numbers are there, pretty consistent with where they've been for the last few months. And obviously you can talk about, other phases in a minute or two. Anything else for Cindy? I did drive by today, and I did see that the stadium, they did have the press box wrapped, and that looked like it was pretty much done. And they were mowing the baseball field again. I mean, it's we're gonna have to plant other stuff there. Things seem to grow very well there now. So, but that is sod. I mean, so it's sod that was laid down. So that's a pretty good surface. We will push to make sure that we can, all things being the way they should as we get through next spring, it would be great to play a baseball game on that field. It should, yes, we'll talk about testing and all that, but it should, with that amount of sod and the time that it's had to grow and bind itself, you would hope that we could have some of the baseball games on in May or whatever. But in stadiums, they'll for football, they will replace the whole field from time to time, replace it on a Monday and play on Sunday. So
Right.
Hopefully, we'll have no more than adequate time for this to be ready to be playable. But there will be testing, and another one of those things that will be made sure of. Sean, you got anything for Cindy that you want to touch base on?
No, I appreciate you asking about the BJM elevator. I know it's a priority for a number of folks. There's a lot of things that are priorities, but that definitely has instructional impact as well. So
we're aware of that, Sean, with talking with Susan. So we're doing everything we can, but until they have their stuff, they just can't come and finish.
Yep.
So we're talking to them every week and sometimes multiple times a week to just check in and see if they've had any updates.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Cindy.
Sure. If there's nothing else in reference to work that's been underway, I will give a quick update for the middle school temperature control project. We are getting ready to hit the street. The notice to bidders actually went in the paper last Friday. We've been calling contractors this week. We have some interest. We have a pre-bid meeting November 2nd in the high school cafeteria. We're going to take bids on November 18th and hopefully, our goal is to present to the board meeting on November 23rd with a recommendation for all contracts. And then our schedule shows the start of that work over Christmas break, if contractors can get their insurance and contracts executed so they can be on site. I did have a conversation with Day Automation today, who is going to be providing a lot of the equipment on a state contract basis for the project. He said the only thing that they are experiencing delays with are dampers. We only have a few on the project, and he's going to look into how long they are currently. And I gave him a framework of what our schedule is and when we look to be complete with the upgrades mechanically. And he's going to see what he can do to fit within that time frame so that we don't have any delay on those being delivered. Otherwise, he felt he would be able to have everything in the time that we have scheduled. And Chris, do you have any update after the addendum was sent in for phase 2?
Thanks, Cindy. We are still awaiting final confirmation from the State Education Department's Office of Facilities Planning on their technical review. So we do have architectural review, and we're waiting for the engineering. We do have architectural approval, I should clarify, and we're waiting for the engineering side of the house to give us approval on that. And then we can move forward to resolving whatever comments the project manager might have. And then we'll be clear to bid that project as well, which we anticipate to be able to happen within the next couple months to be in really good shape for this upcoming bidding season.
Very good. Amanda, what next? Do we want to, we have phase 2 on the list and phase 3A.
So phase 3A is Chris as well. And so those are sort of like the definites in terms of what we'll be moving forward after, you know, the items for phase 2 are approved. And so Chris, I think it's still you, if that's okay.
Sure. So phase 3A at this point has been identified to include some aging infrastructure type items, primarily the roof at Enfield Elementary School, which is aging out, and in discussion with ICSD staff, primarily Tim, who is the most aware of where actual leaks are occurring, in addition to the infrared scanning that the district had completed on all your buildings, and those reports have been forwarded to you. So those were 2 pieces of information that we used in order to prioritize the next roofing project. So that Enfield roof is next up, and the windows at BJM are the other large piece there. As we were looking at the windows at BJM, we also remembered that there is an issue with the parapet coping. So there's precast concrete detailing on that building. It's quite nice. And the top of that has started to see some issues just due to age. It's about, I believe it's about 80-year-old precast concrete that's up there on the top of the building. And it's a natural cycle, freeze thaw, water getting in it. So that's some of that starting to come apart, and it's been stabilized by the district, but it's time to replace that. And so while we're doing work on that building, we're including that piece of work as well as some miscellaneous, just masonry, relatively minor masonry improvements just for repointing, a few pieces here and there that just need to be replaced. So while we're at it and doing masonry work at BJM, there are a couple other things to address there. So that's basically the scope of work. There's also the infrastructure, sort of a placeholder for infrastructure for sign, electronic sign at BJM. And so, we'll have ongoing discussions about where that might best be, if that's, out in the lawn between the building and the sidewalk, or if that's building mounted, or how exactly that might work. That's another piece at BJM. So that I think wraps up the phase 3A scope that we've discussed, and we're ready to start that design in the near term. We've had some discussions and some ongoing discussions about what we're calling phase 3B, and primarily that includes a real reimagining of the STEM spaces at Ithaca High School. That's a program that is existing in some of the older spaces in the E-wing that many of you may be familiar with. So renovation there, and really, sort of rethinking and giving them upgraded spaces to support that piece of the curriculum. Another significant portion of that phase is to address the HVAC systems at Ithaca High School as well. There are a variety of controls systems. So these are the computerized systems that tell the pieces of equipment when to turn off, how hot, how cold, when, how do you operate. So those what we call controls are for as complex a high school complex, as you have there, It's not unusual to see different vintages of work and different controls systems sometimes layered on top of one another. And so they're aging out as well. And so a project will clean that up. And in addition, extend the lake source cooling that's currently going to some areas of the building to areas G and H. So that's, as many of you are aware, that's where most of the classrooms are in those buildings. So adding cooling to those and other replacing other pieces of mechanical equipment around the building. So a big chunk of mechanical, big chunk of STEM work. We also have a budget at this point for some work out at the Lake Street side of that. That's a combination of aging infrastructure and improving usage over there. So, if you've driven back there, you may have dodged some asphalt, potholes in various places over there. So that's just, it's just naturally aging out. As well, there are buses that come through that. And so if you've tried to get to that back parking lot over by K-Wing, when buses are dropping off, you probably encountered some difficulties getting around them safely. So we're also thinking about how to reorganize some of those drives and the parking to enhance that ability for students to come in and out, and also visitors to be able to park. So those are some of the big pieces that we've been talking about for phase 3B.
Thanks, Chris. And Sean, one item of note, small item of note, but as part of the Enfield roofing project, there will be some design to improve the facade fascia of the old cafeterium, whatever, where the gym was and the cafeteria, and so just to spruce up. We're up there replacing the roof. Let's just take a look at that face of Enfield a little bit, just to improve that, the looks there. Chris, Amanda, we've talked about this, but I assume once we do get SCD approval and we're ready to go, the thought was it is coming up on really a quarterly presentation to the community, and so really outlining what projects are going to be done in phase 2 and when and where. We'll just to remind everyone what's going on. There's a lot going on every summer, and there will be a lot going on next summer at some of the schools. And again, Chris, I don't believe in luck too much. I'm not even crossing my fingers, but hopefully the solution to the middle school climate control systems is within reach, and it is not an inexpensive solution to go and do it, and a bit of a precursor of what we're going to have to do at the high school to bring things up to a somewhat modern standards. But Chris, I'm hoping that in the fall of 2022, then when we turn on the heat, it's going to be or whatever. It's all going to work the way it's supposed to work, right, Chris?
That's the goal, absolutely.
Okay.
And so
Right.
I'll just mention that we're replacing the controls systems in those buildings as well. So much of the equipment, the actual thing that makes the heat, blows the air, is in newer condition, and we're not replacing every single thing in that building, but we're replacing the brains that tells all that stuff what to do and when to do it. Currently, it's on an older system. So yeah.
Yeah, Chris, we replaced both heating plants in both buildings, right? That's all from the last time, not that long ago. It's pretty new. So yeah,
that's right.
We're just trying to make sure it works right. And so that's an update, phase 2, phase 3A, and a bit of B. A lot of conversations, Sean, about what goes in, what we're going to do in the out years here, and as we're starting to do design and development to wrap up, the rest of the funds available. And the funds available is basically in the monthly progress status report. And so we'll continue to review that and what we can mop up in phase 4. So a lot of conversation and opportunity to talk about this with members of the community, interested parties, et cetera. So we'll Chris, anything else? Right now, we're going to talk about Northeast retaining wall, and then do want to talk about the operations update. So I want to make sure we have plenty of time for that.
Yeah, I think I'm good, unless there are other items you want to talk about. Sorry, Amanda.
No. All right, see, I didn't pause. I'm getting out of practice with all the virtual stuff because we go in person, virtual, right? So my
Got to
apologies.
be flexible, Amanda. Got to be flexible. And yeah, we're going to, there's a retaining wall at Northeast that seems to be collapsing. So,
That's right.
so we need to address that apparently.
That wall is too flexible right now. We don't want it. And so we're going to we need to repair it and actually remediate that. And so this was just an agenda item. It's, facilities related, not capital project, but our proposal essentially is just to put this on the radar with the board as we're, it's always budget season, thinking about the upcoming budget vote in May, where we have opportunities to be able to place propositions on the ballots that authorizes us to spend from our current capital reserve, right? And so one of the things we have to do this year is we have to establish a new capital reserve. We're going to have the board authorize the funding of that capital reserve and then utilize that capital reserve. And so we usually use that for buses, but we also use it for capital projects that essentially similar to this, right? That are really showing a health and safety concern. We do a lot of paving with that work, and masonry, I think, could fall into sort of a good utilization. When we establish the capital reserve, we can use it for purposes like this. And so what we would like to do, because of that wall and the kind of immediacy that we want to handle and address the issue of its deterioration, we think one of the quickest ways to do that is to be able to actually utilize the capital reserve with voter authorization to be able to remediate that wall, so that this summer coming up, we can hopefully have a lot of the paperwork ready to go. We have the quotes in order for the work. We can get that work done over the summer potentially. So I'm trying to read Chris Glaubitz's face there to see if I expedited the process with state ed a little bit too much. But we would like to be able to do a little bit of something inside the building so that this site work could be aided as well. So we would have to, when we go to the voters, we would ask them for, a certain amount of funding. I think is it $10,000 or $12,000, Chris, inside the building? 10. $10,000 of work inside the building. That can be flooring, that can be, ceilings, that could be walls. And then also we would remediate that wall. And then we would have some, costs associated with that within that proposition. So that's our initial plan. And I just wanted to share that with the board, our thinking, so that we could get that done quickly.
Amanda, just seemed in the past, it seemed like we had to establish a capital reserve and then fund it the year later. We have room in the capital reserve to fund this for next summer, and then obviously we have to have our rolling capital reserve that we have to do this every now and then. It's not necessary they're both linked, right? Or
correct. You don't have to fund it fully. We can actually fund it with the as we end the year. If we have, we end the year positively, we can actually fund it with the monies at the end of the year. And with a board authorization, we can actually move the monies in the remaining capital reserve over once we utilize it for bus purchases and for the wall. So I just wanted to, sort of alert you that it was kind of finance and facilities coming together on that discussion.
Very good. And yeah, it's the yellow caution tape around that wall probably needs to end after how many years it's been there, or this wall's been tumbling for a while. So we just try to fix things, Amanda. That's kind of the deal. So we'll make that happen. And so are we good? And then we'll just go on to facilities operations update. Dr. Brown, anything on your mind before we, you good over there, Dr. Brown? Okay. All right.
I'm good, Rob.
All right. So Ken and
Yeah, thanks everybody. I just want to introduce Ken Smith to the group. Ken is from WCS. He assumed our day-to-day operations for custodial grounds and maintenance on October 1st. He's really hit the ground running. He's going to share with us the transition work that's happened, future plans, and communication. And thanks, Ken. We're really glad you're here.
I just want to take a quick moment to thank everybody for giving WCS the opportunity to work with you guys. We're excited to be in the district. It's going to be a fun project. There's a good bunch of people. Just from the short time I've been here, there's a great bunch of people here to work with, and we're looking forward to working with all of you.
Okay, Tricia, could you go to the next slide, Tricia? Thanks.
So just a brief rundown of what we've gone through the first 2.5 weeks we've been here. I was introduced to all the maintenance custodial staff. Been to all sites so far. I've met with all the principals, all the custodial staff. It's a big district. There's a lot of concerns. Each school we went to, we walked the campus with each individual principal, like I said. Had them express their 3 concerns, their biggest concerns on site. We've got a lot of different issues at each school. Some of them are similar, some of them aren't. Nothing we can't handle and tackle together as a team. As part of meeting with the principals, we're also going to follow up with them every 2 weeks, setting up meetings, just to keep the communication line open with all the principals. Also having meetings with the custodial staff, maintenance, and our building and grounds team.
Tricia, would you mind going to the next slide? Sorry.
So being here, for 3 weeks, it's been a lot to take in as far as just the size of the district. So we spent a week and a half just with meet and greets and just learning the facilities. Some of our goals will be, we want to get everyone more efficient with the master library. There's some issues there where, I think it's just a training and learning thing with everyone, where, if we're entering things properly in more detail, everyone won't be, in a sense, I found where people seem to be left in the dark a little bit. So we just got to get that communication line opened up. And I think a lot of that is just training in the master library. But in the meantime, like I had said, I'm going to meet with these principals twice a month. So that'll help bridge that communication gap until we can get everyone up to speed with master library. We're going to be working on planning and procedures. We're going to work on, PM programs, but everything we need to get into the master library to make things start to run a little bit more efficient. We have noticed, there's a shortage of people, and I think that's everywhere. I know we've worked, Bob and I have sat down in interviews the last 2 weeks. We've hired 2 custodians. But once we get our staff built up a little bit, I think we'll start to see some huge strides in making some progress in some of the work orders that are outstanding.
Hey, Ken, do you want to just give us a quick primer on master library, or just exactly what you're talking about there?
Well, obviously, well, maybe everyone doesn't know at this point, but master library, all the work orders go into master library. It seems to me at this point, there's been they go into the system and there hasn't been that communication on the backside of what happens to the work orders. So part of it is, they could be waiting on parts and nothing is relayed back, where if we get better on a maintenance standpoint, there's areas in master library where we can enter data, which will generate an email back to your principal or whoever generated that work order to let them know what the status is at that point in time. I feel we really need to push for that, because the big thing is that lack of communication. People are just need to know where they stand and where, you know, each work order is at. Along with that master library, there's so many things we can do. There's even with the PMs, as we work together trying to work up a PM program, this is going to generate work orders when the PMs are due. It's also, we can see where we're having reoccurring issues. That way we can plan ahead as far as budgets go, which, you know, piece of equipment is giving us issues like it and such.
Oh, thanks, I appreciate it.
And Tricia, thanks. I think we can take it off the presenting screen right now. Appreciate it. I just wanted to add, it's, you know, it's been great to visit each campus. We've also met with, Ken's also met with athletics, fine arts, transportation. He's even been to Danby. And, you know, we're looking at master library as a way to look at our systems and what we can strengthen, looking at patterns and seeing, you know, I know Ken talked about PMs, which is preventative maintenance, which I know everybody knows, but setting up those systems in master library, like filter changes or other scheduling that's just automatic to our staff. And also, I just want to add that we're this week we're working on providing some training to our admin on master library as well. We're actually scheduling it first, and it'll be the following week. But on, you know, so they can understand how work orders are submitted, how they're approved, and they can basically understand the system. So I just wanted to add those few things. Any questions?
So, we have a contract with Ken Smith and his company. How long does this contract last, and
Rob, it's I would guess that it's going to be probably the remainder of this school year before we can build up enough the systems to sort of be where we want to be. That's, you know, rough timeline.
Oh, no, I just wondered about the scope and the length. So it sounds, certainly there's a lot to digest, and I can understand that. We're going to be in November here fairly soon, unfortunately, and so time keeps moving on. You know, we talk about communication all the time. Anyone that's had a machine break down and go try to get a part that may not be available for months because, well, we're just not available. And you see that over and over again. Empty store shelves or empty this or supply chain issues seems to be the current excuse for any delays, but that can hide, that excuse can hide a lot of things that there are alternatives. There are other things we can do or whatever. So I think it's talks to the efficiencies that I think that we're looking to implement, and yeah. So I hope we get there, and I hope we need to hire the right people and the right amount of people. So it's in the past, Bob, we've talked about, well, we've in order to make a budget, well, we had to cut back custodial, and okay, how many feet do you actually clean every night? And so, well, you're going to have to do a bit more. And so, you know, we've gone away from those discussions quite a while ago. But again, how efficient are we in our practices and machines, new equipment and new procedures, new techniques, all those things. So it's going to be fairly dynamic, I think, for a solution here, right? And Sean, feel free to weigh in. And
I'm wondering about the integration. Well, first, welcome, Ken. Welcome to the
Thank you.
district. Wondering about the integration between the services that Ken's providing and our existing services. How is that going? And I may have missed it, but I didn't think I heard it.
It's going really well. The reception from folks who clearly, and Paul, I think Paul's actually on. We've heard time and time again, Paul's expertise and experience and service to the district is greatly admired as we go through and talk to folks. We also know this district is too big, probably, for one person to manage. And so Ken and his company, Ken's, excuse me, Ken, I just made you the CEO of.
Hey, thank you, Bob.
But his company has expertise at doing two things: keeping the day-to-day nuts and bolts moving, which is primarily what Ken's doing, and then also building up systems and protocols and procedures that can help long-term. And that's Corey and Ken and Dan and myself and Amanda, all in combination. I think the crews are very receptive to the process, Sean. We've heard some good things from everybody, and I'm really pleased so far. It's really, it's going well. It's week 3, so it's early, but it's going well, I think.
If I
Go ahead.
Good. jump in, Bob and Amanda, if you're still on, I think it's important maybe to step back and just frame the consulting contract and the process we've gone through to get to this point. If we could step back, I know it's been going on and we started this in the midst of a pandemic, but I think just to refresh the board and community members who are on, how did we get here and what exactly is the engagement?
Yeah, maybe Amanda and I will do a little tag teaming on this, but this began really pre-pandemic. We were thinking about how to work this exact thing that's happened. It got delayed rapidly because it really was like we're talking to Corey and his company, and the pandemic hit, and so it was sort of put on the back burner. But when we were gearing up to reopen, and the massive amount of work that just the HVAC system alone needed to get us prepared to open, and then all the movement of furniture, all that stuff, we brought in the company to assist in that role. So they spent a number of months helping get us reopened, and really not doing what they just started 3 weeks ago, right? They were doing it was the same company. It was a few different personnel people, but they were really helping to get us open for COVID and prepared to deliver services to students in the pandemic. And now it has shifted again back to what the original thought process was, which is what we have right now. Was that?
That's certainly helpful, Dr. Brown.
I think one other thing that was on the slide, but might be beneficial to hear again, even in a recorded on, open meeting, is that WCS and what we're doing has absolutely nothing to do with the unions. Their union is just as it was before WCS came on. Their union contract is the same. We are not privatizing facility services. There's still a little bit of rumors that we hear every once in a while. I'm telling you, in open public session that's being recorded, that is untrue if you hear that.
Thanks, Bob. We did see that in the on one of the slides, and certainly we would expect that. Right, Ken is not an employee of the district, but there's a contract with WCS. I'm going to have to look them up, and but it is helpful to know that we've had a relationship for a while. I was wondering how Dan got all those desks like delivered and figured out what to do with the old ones and do that all on Labor Day or something. And Dan did it all himself. I was really surprised. Well, not surprised, but very, very, well, it's great work to get us back, getting us ready to go. And certainly knew that we are doing a lot of testing of our air handling and meeting those needs and the filters that we had to install. I know that Paul was all over that and very involved. So, and so we are up and running. We have kids in the classroom, but yeah, now it's down to making sure all the other systems work to keep them there and to do all the everyday stuff that is done every day. That's what everyday work is. Chores, they used to call them on the farm, Dan. Chores are chores. That's just Sean, the cows have to be milked every day, regardless of what day it is, right?
Rob, I have chores at home, so I don't even live on a farm, but we'll talk about that. So we're hearing a little bit about what's taking place inside of buildings. We've also been having conversations from employees, from teachers, from parents and community members and board members about what's taking place outside of our buildings. So can we speak to some of the groundwork that's happening, not just mowing the baseball field, but some of the other groundwork that's taking place at our many buildings?
Yeah, maybe Ken, when you're getting unmuted, one thing that has become pretty quickly clear to Ken is that we probably are understaffed in the grounds department, given the amount of work, amount of places they have to be. Some of their work is diluted because they also they transport food to various locations. So, there's like 13 people, 13 positions, and yet really on any given day, 5 or sometimes fewer, depending on absences, are out there making the lawns and gardens look good. So I'm just prefacing that.
Yeah, we've definitely noticed that with the food deliveries and the mail runs, and whether it be PTO or just sick days, definitely shorthanded at times. I have sat down with Brenda, the head of the building and grounds, and we did work on coming up with a mowing schedule for the fall, part of the fall. It will change as spring rolls around, but we did put together, weather providing, but we've sent that out. I believe Dan sent that out today to the principals when we'll be out mowing their sites. We definitely have a lot of catch up to do because some of these sites are definitely out of control. But with this schedule, we're going to get out there and we're going to get things caught up. But again, to their defense, I do feel that they are a little short staffed by with the food deliveries and the extra mail runs.
And there are a couple of vacancies too, and we have a couple custodians who want to move over to grounds, but we're delaying that until we hire custodians. The 2 that we hired this week are delayed through no fault of us or the applicants. There's some other bureaucracy that is delaying it right now, but as soon as we get those custodians on board, we'll shift 2 more over to grounds. So that should help a lot too.
Yeah, and please know that when I ask the question, I'm completely aware that it's contextual, that we're in a pandemic, and that every department is overtaxed and understaffed. I'm without question aware of that. And Ken, as I was hearing you talk about a schedule for mowing, it did make me think about how far are we planning ahead for winter groundwork, given that we know that snow's probably coming our way at some point in time. Rob, I hope not, but I would presume that it's going to snow here. And how are we making plans to make sure that we'll be able to address that adequately, especially
Sean, that's definitely on our radar. We haven't had that discussion, unfortunately. Brenda was out sick last week, all week and a day this week. So with where I've been out in the field, getting to meet everyone in each facility, we haven't had enough time to sit down and tackle the winter, but we had a brief conversation. We know it's coming, and we're definitely going to get a plan in place.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yep.
And Sean, I well, to the subject, this has been, conversation's been going around the board a bit, and it has been pointed out by Sean and Chris and others, and certainly we did it, you know, for some of the neighborhood elementary schools. It's fall is a great time to, you know, do a fall cleanup, and all those weeds, great time to whack them down and do, you know, and get together as a community to spruce things up for the winter. And you cut weeds down now, they're not going to grow back. And that's, you know, that used to be fairly routinely done. It's a great way for the community and kids to get together to, you know, to help your school. And now's a great time to do that. And for board members and others that have concerns, it's, yeah, I mean, that's a way to, you know, reach out to the PTAs and, hey, you know, we can help our custodians and everyone, their huge amount of work that they're doing. You know, we can work with the custodial crew and the grounds crew and do a day, do a Saturday for a few hours, and bring some folks in and just, you know, contribute to the school in a different way. And get the kids away from the computers for a while and here, go cut stuff, you know, and put the phone down. And Paul knows that I hate sumac, and you know, I certainly I don't like weeds, and so I am a rogue weed trimmer guy that I will drive around, and I have done it in the past, but I try to. Yeah, I got caught at the high school a long time ago. And because it was just, I didn't want that sumac there anymore. And so I didn't think anybody be there that morning, but I got caught, but it was okay. And why is the president of the Board of Education whacking down sumac? And the response was, well, probably because it was overgrown. So anyway, that's, but we've done this in the past, and you know, I'm not going to go to every elementary school and do this, but we do it all the time. And I think it's an opportunity rather than a negative totally. Let's bring some of these communities together where folks are complaining about it and make something happen. There's lots of weekends here, and lots of, it only takes an hour or two and you can do a lot. But Sean, that's my speech, and I know others are not listening, but that's okay. We don't always, it's not always a question of, you know, gee, somebody ought to do something about that. And Sean, this drives me crazy. Somebody ought to do something about that and then sit back and complain, why didn't anybody do anything? Well, here's an opportunity to involve yourself and with the community and do something with your neighborhood school. We have 8 neighborhood schools, Sean, right? And that's why we have elementary schools scattered about this town. So the big stuff, yeah, the baseball field looks great, and a lot of it, much of it looks very good, but it's a lot easier to do big swaths than all that tight work around buildings. So it's that's where the work is. So that's my soapbox for today, Sean. So Dr. Brown, you're going to go weed some stuff, maybe, right, Dr. Brown?
No, not me, man. I'll get somebody to help me.
I have a weed string trimmer and a chainsaw, and I know how to use them, so it's all good. Anything else, everybody? Ken, good, very good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Amanda, anything else for tonight? We've been doing this for a few hours now, and so it's an off Tuesday, Sean, and so probably there must be a game on or something, right? So.
Multiple. Good to see everybody.
Good to see. We good, everyone? We're all good? Okay. We'll see everybody soon.
Thanks.